Today we're going to look at making the cuts we need to put a door together. Like this would be where a rail and the style of the door, fit together. So there's match cutters that do each cut. I set this up in here because it's kind of time consuming to do that. I'll go through what I did. First thing, I'm going to move this out of the way because this is going to be in the way. If you're working up here a lot, it's best to move this out of the way. And you can't leave it hanging out because see, the whole machine will fall over. So I kind of stick it back over here out of the way.
I was kind of wanting to see how to get that all on the spindle and the spacers and all
I'll show you because I'm going to change the bits.
that. Oh, okay. All right, cool.
To the other one. And the one I set up in here first is the one that will go on the door rails. That's this one. The stiles will be made like that, and see the door rail doesn't have that. It goes into it like that. Now,
The rails are horizontal, stiles are up and down.
that's right. And I checked on here to make sure the bit was going in the right way.
Now, what pulley did you use for that? The big or small?
The small, the one
Small?
on the top two.
That's the fastest one?
Yeah, I don't have the. Yeah, you use the fastest one on there. So what's important with this is that the fence is even with this slotting machine because we're going to need to use this crosscut jig to guide across here. The smallest cutter on here really doesn't do much cutting. See that one down in there? That's why you need to even the fence up to. I usually get it just to barely touch. Put something across here and barely touch it. And then that's where you want it to be. And then I check the height, I put a piece of wood. You want to leave, good 1/16 or a little more up on top. You don't want it too thin when you're making the door. If you sand out a little bit, it'll look funny if it's too skinny. So you leave a little meat on the top. I usually do about that much. Because that's a heavy 16. So we got it. Okay, so once you got this even with the fence, then I'll measure in here. Now this thing adjusts, the fence adjusts from these 2 points. I'll measure the measurement here, I'll measure the measurement here and see if it's the same. If it's not, I'll see the difference and I'll bring, that one halfway up or the other one halfway back just to get it even. And then, check and make sure they're even, and then I'll check that again. And the tall tale sign is when you put the miter gauge in here to see if it's even with it. It's pretty good. Now when we're doing these cuts, you always need something to back it up. That's why this piece of wood is on here. So when it cuts through, it doesn't tear out the back side.
Is that just a piece you put on?
Yeah.
Or is that something?
Yeah, just any piece of wood put there. I have to replace it each time or cut it shorter. And and what else do I need to know? Yeah, and you put a piece of wood up here and see you know, see where it's cut, where it's cutting. You know, get the height right. Now, it's a little tricky doing these cuts because when you get in this open area, if you have a skinny rail, this bit tends to want to suck them in. So you really have to hold this tight, or you could use a little clamp to help hold it. I really want to look into what the door manufacturers use, because I think they have special jigs for clamping this stuff. Because this is kind of, we don't do a lot of doors here, but if we have to make some, it's really good to know how to do them.
They use a vice type thing.
Do they?
Same thing you're doing. It's just
Yeah, they have, yeah.
maybe.
So what I'll do is, so a lot of times that clamp tends to want to bow the wood up, so I hold it down good. And I'll just that's our first cut. They are fine. And then, after you're done doing all your cross cuts on your door rails, we won't need that anymore.
Do you do that particular setup first,
Yeah,
or you do the other one?
I usually do this one first, because on this one you have to get this nice and square to the fence and everything. I like doing this one first.
Okay.
That's the harder setup. Once you got this set up, the rest of it goes really easy. So now I'm going to take these off. The last thing that goes on here is that keyed washer. That's supposed to jam if anything gets loose. I got some spacers so I don't have to bring the nut down real far. Now these cutters are meant for a larger shaft, I think 1.25 inches. So we have these little bushings to bring it down to our inch shaft. So this small cutter on this one should be exactly the same size as the small cutter on this one. So our fence stays in the same spot. So I put these on here, real straight.
Could be some fluckering up on this one.
Okay. I'm going to put this on here, so I'll have to screw the nut down way down there. Keyed washer. And we'll tighten it back up.
These bits work in any configuration, or is that just what they do?
What do you mean any config? You got to put them in the right configuration.
But I mean, is it stuck to just doing that, or can you move them around
Oh,
depending on what you're doing?
yeah. I mean they're match sets and ground to match each other. But if you know,
Depends
if
on
you didn't have any other bits and you just wanted them to do that cut, you can. You know. Okay, that's set up for, now since these are matched sets, I shouldn't have to touch any of the settings. I'm just gonna test it a little bit, see what it looks like. Before, and it goes in there fine.
Wow.
So what's nice about doing this is once you set one bit up, you put the other, don't change anything, put the other bit on, you're good to go. Now with this we could use the power feed. So we'll bring that around. And so we want to angle that. Now we're gonna be feeding the wood in this direction, which is the same way the bit's running. If you were going to do that by hand, you'd have to push it this way like I did. But with the power feed, we're going that way because it'll be less. It'll hold it from being thrown, and it'll be less tear out. It's like when you go with the router backwards, it's less tear out. Flush trimming something.
So you slightly angled that towards the fence a little bit?
I'm angling it towards the fence, so it
Push
keeps
it
it
up.
against the fence. If this is angled the other way, it'll go away from the fence on you.
Sometimes you gotta do a couple test pieces, because I do it sometimes I lead off or something.
And then you want to put your this wants to be an 1/8 to 1/4 lower than the wood, and it's about right. I'll make sure I'll use the tape. Now this has a forward and reverse. It goes in either direction. Right now it's coming this way, so it won't go in. Got to go running that way. And there's also a fast speed. That's the fastest speed, which I don't use. The faster it is, the less nice your cut will be. So I'm going to put that on. Turn it. And so here, the door styles and rails. Any questions? There's something I didn't go over.
Just want to add one thing, John.
Yeah.
Not that I know the machine, but you just have to be aware of your measurement that's gonna end up what you need, because sometimes you lose
Oh, yeah.
something.
Oh yeah, if you forgot
So-
the measurements for the door, you got to know how much the.
Otherwise, you make it 24 inches and it's too short then.
Glad you said
Yeah,
that.
these go in
Yes,
3/8
that's
of
what's
these go in 3/8 of an inch.
See.
So
Yeah,
when you're doing your measurements for your rails, you're going to add 3/4 of an inch to the opening size, because part of it goes into there.